knowledge seekers of the Sahara Timbuktu marketplace. First rays of the sun kissed the golden sands of the Sahara, painting the horizon with hues of orange and pink. The desert sparrows chirping blended with the faint braying of camels stirring awake. From the nearby alleys, the rhythmic thuds of wooden mortars crushing grains filled the air, mingling with the savory aroma of flatbread baking in clay ovens. Timbuktu, the city of 1,000 caravans, stored to life. Merchants, traders, and wanderers from across continents converged on this legendary marketplace, their voices a symphony of dialects and accents. The bustling market square was the heart of the city, a labyrinth of vibrant stalls, where the aroma of exotic spices mingled with the earthy scent of fresh leather and wood. Khadija, a young 20-year-old Mali woman with sharp eyes and an even sharper wit, stood behind her family's stall piled high with indigo-dyed cloth. Her long black hair is covered with a hijab, and she is wearing an indigo-dyed dress with intricate patterns cinched at the waist with a woven belt and adorned with silver jewelry. Her father, Hamid, is a respected cloth merchant with a square face, deep-set brown eyes, a strong nose, and a well-groomed beard. He wears a light beige cotton tunic with embroidered details, loose-fitting trousers, and a colorful turban. Hamid spent years perfecting the art of weaving and dyeing, making their fabrics some of the most sought after in the region. Her mother, Amina, skilled in henna and embroidery, is busy arranging pots of henna dye and tufts of cotton, humming a soft tune that reminded Khadija of the songs of her childhood. She has warm brown eyes and a gentle smile, and her long, wavy black hair is covered with a hijab. She wears a flowing black dress with long sleeves, a matching hijab draped over her shoulders, and ornate beaded jewelry. Khadija, don't forget to barter fiercely today. The caravan from Cairo just arrived. They will pay well for quality, her father said as he straightened his jacket while glancing at the incoming traders. Of course, Baba, she replied, her lips curving into a knowing smile. Her heart swelled with pride for the stall her family had built with years of effort. It was here, among the vibrant chaos, that Khadija's life would change forever. Khadija was no ordinary young woman. Not only is she the daughter of a respected cloth merchant, but also the granddaughter of a renowned storyteller. Khadija moved through the market with a purpose that set her apart from the typical young women of her time. Her eyes, deep and observant, missed nothing. While other women her age spoke of marriage and family, Khadija dreamed of knowledge, of stories untold, of mysteries waiting to be unraveled. The market's pulse. The market square of Timbuktu was a kaleidoscope of activity. Camels laden with salt blocks from the northern mines jostled for space with donkeys carrying millet from the south. Traders from the Maghreb, the Sahel, and beyond displayed their goods: Moroccan leather slippers, Songhai gold jewelry, Ottoman silks, and spices from the Levant. The sharp tang of dried fish from the Niger River mingled with the sweet perfume of dates and the nutty aroma of roasted groundnuts. The air buzzed with negotiations, laughter, and the occasional quarrel. Khadija's stall, positioned strategically near the central fountain, attracted a steady stream of customers. Her quick wit and warm demeanor were as much an asset as the fine cloth she sold. Among her regulars was Jamal, age 22, a young storyteller from Marrakesh whose tales of distant lands always drew a crowd. Jamal was no ordinary storyteller. He was a poet, historian, and writer whose words were as sought after as the fine gold of the Songhai. Jamal is a Moroccan who is charismatic and engaging. He has a lean face, dark brown eyes, and a wide smile. His black hair is covered with a black and white turban, and he wears a white tunic and black pants. His stall, a modest wooden stand draped with indigo-dyed cloth, stood in the shade of a tall acacia tree near the heart of the Timbuktu market. There, he arranged his carefully bound manuscripts, each filled with verses of longing, chronicles of great rulers, and philosophical musings on the nature of time. Ink-stained fingers were a testament to his craft, and his voice, rich, melodic, and full of knowing, was the instrument through which he painted history. Born in Marrakesh to a family of scholars, Jamal had spent his youth poring over the ancient texts, but wanderlust and an insatiable curiosity led him across the shifting sands of the Sahara through caravan routes bustling with traders and nomads. He arrived in Timbuktu 4 years ago, drawn by its famed scholars and its status as the jewel of learning in West Al-Kabulan. Here, amidst the great mosques and libraries, he had found his home. His writings were prized by merchants and scholars alike. Traders from distant lands would purchase his scrolls to carry knowledge back to their homelands, while local griots studied his poetry to weave into their oral traditions. When he was not writing or selling his wares, Jamal spent his time engaging in spirited debates with scholars about the histories of empires and the wisdom of ancient texts. But it was in the market square where he truly came alive. He wove words like a tapestry, painting scenes of love, war, and destiny with an eloquence that made even the busiest merchant pause. Children sat cross-legged at his feet, captivated by his tales of heroic travelers and lost cities buried beneath the dunes. Elders nodded in appreciation, for in Jamal, they saw the continuation of a grand tradition, the keeper of memory, the voice of the past, speaking to the present. "Ah, Khadija, how does the desert rose bloom today?" He greeted her with an over-exaggerated bow. In his hand, he held a fresh parchment, the ink, still glistening in the sunlight. "It blooms brighter with the warmth of your words, Jamal," she replied, skillfully folding a bolt of cloth. "Will you be telling tales of adventure today?" "Only if you promise to listen," he said with a wink, leaning against the stall as if he belonged there. Jamal's stories were his currency, and he traded them generously, earning himself the loyalty of the market's merchants and wanderers alike. Their exchange was interrupted by a commotion of voices nearby, and a ripple of movement that signaled the arrival of someone important. Jamal, ever the historian, straightened his turban and observed from his vantage point, already composing the words that would turn this moment into legend. The stranger's arrival. A tall man draped in a flowing blue embroidered robe stepped into the square, his face partially obscured by a tagelmost. His presence commanded attention. He carried himself with the confidence of someone who had navigated treacherous deserts and survived. His camel, a towering beast with a golden bridle, bore chests that hinted at treasures. The animal's fur shimmered with a sheen that suggested it had been cared for by skilled hands. "Who is he?" murmured one merchant, his voice tinged with curiosity. "A Tuareg. An envoy from the Sultan based on his regal appearance is my guess," speculated another, craning his neck for a better view. Khadija left her stall and made her way towards the crowd of spectators slowly gathering. She watched intently as the stranger made his way to the auction platform, where rare and valuable items were often displayed. His servant, a large man with piercing eyes, unveiled a polished ebony chest. Inside was a collection of scrolls, their edges gilded and their scripts intricate. The crowd murmured with excitement, drawing closer. "Manuscripts," the stranger announced, his voice deep and resonant. "Rare texts from Andalusia and Baghdad, knowledge that no coin can truly measure." Khadija's curiosity was piqued. She edged closer, her heart quickening as she tried to catch a glimpse of the texts. The market's usual din faded as the crowd hung on his every word. A test of wit. The bidding began. Gold dinars and silver dirhams flowed freely, but the stranger's gaze scanned the crowd as if seeking something beyond wealth. His eyes settled on Khadija, who had unwittingly stepped into the front row. She felt an unspoken challenge pass between them. "You, young woman," he said, pointing to her, "do you value knowledge?" The crowd parted, and Khadija stepped forward, her heart pounding but her demeanor calm. Her palms tingled with a mixture of fear and excitement. "Knowledge is the true currency of the soul," she replied, her voice steady. "What value has gold if the mind is barren?" A smile flickered across the stranger's lips. "Then answer me this. What cannot be seen but fills the world? What has no weight but breaks the strongest man?" The crowd held its breath, the question hanging in the air like the desert's heat. Khadija's mind raced. She thought of the winds that swept through the Sahara, carrying whispers of distant lands and the hope they promised. "The answer is hope," she said, meeting his gaze. The stranger's eyes gleamed with approval. "Well done. For your wit, I offer this," he said, pulling a small scroll from the chest. "A gift, not for sale." As she accepted the scroll, a chill ran down her spine. The parchment was adorned with words she didn't recognize, but they seemed to pulse with an otherworldly energy, as if holding secrets that yearned to be uncovered. The scroll also contained a map with directions to an unknown area. Khadija wondered if this was a treasure map or just a route to the village's scribe. She was eager to find out the answer, so she walked over to Jamal's stall in hopes of receiving help in deciphering a mystery scroll. When she saw how busy he was, she waited to speak to him after it was time to close down her stall for the day. Khadija invited Jamal to come over to her home so that he could decipher the scroll that was written in an unfamiliar text. Deciphering the scroll, Khadija lived with her parents who welcomed Jamal into their home. That evening, by the soft glow of an oil lamp, Khadija and Jamal examined the scroll. The words were unlike anything they had seen, a complex interweaving of ancient script, mathematical notations, and what seemed to be astronomical markings found on maps. Each line and curve told a story, hinting at knowledge far beyond their understanding. "What secrets does it hold?" he asked, settling beside her with the grace of an affectionate cat. "I don't know yet," she admitted, tracing the symbols with her finger. "It's written in an unfamiliar text." "Let me examine the scroll in depth," Jamal said, leaning closer. "These words resemble ancient Berber scripts. Beyond recognizing the similarities, I am unfamiliar with the written words. Perhaps a scholar could decipher it. Tomorrow we should visit Sheikh Umar, who is a historian, linguist, and scholar. I'm sure he can decipher the words." The next morning, Khadija and Jamal visited the city's most esteemed scholar, Sheikh Umar, a man renowned for his vast knowledge of ancient texts. He is elderly with a wrinkled face, wise brown eyes, and a long white beard. He wears a long brown robe with gold embroidery, a white turban, and leather sandals. His library smelled of aged parchment and ink, a sanctuary for seekers of wisdom. His eyes widened as he examined the scroll. Sheikh Umar confirmed what they had suspected. This was no ordinary manuscript. It was a map, not just to a physical location, but to a repository of wisdom that flourished from scholars during the great kingdoms of Al-Kabulan. It speaks of a hidden library, a repository of wisdom buried beneath the sands, a library so secret that its very existence had become legendary among scholars and mystics. "Where?" Khadija asked, her pulse quickening. "The directions are here," Sheikh Umar said, pointing to the symbols. "But deciphering the entire scroll that is written in ancient Berber, along with several other ancient languages, will take time. I am familiar with some of the text, but I will have to research the ones I am not familiar with and let you know when I have finished my work." Khadija was overjoyed at the possibility of learning more about the library and thanked Sheikh Umar and Jamal for their invaluable assistance. 2 weeks later, Sheikh Umar sent word to Khadija by messenger that he deciphered some of the scroll and expects her and Jamal to come by early the next morning. Khadija jumped up and down with excitement and thanked the messenger by giving him a coin. She ran over to Jamal's stall to share the good news. Sheikh Umar's translation. Sheikh Umar's library was a sanctuary of ancient knowledge, sunlight filtering through intricate wooden lattice windows, casting delicate patterns across shelves laden with manuscripts. The ancient Berber scroll was carefully spread on an ornate wooden table, surrounded by reference text and translation scrolls. Sheikh Umar rubbed his eyes as if he had not slept soundly in a long time, his weathered fingers tracing the intricate symbols. "This is remarkable," he muttered, then looked up at Khadija and Jamal with eyes that sparkled with scholarly excitement. This scroll contains the map to a hidden library that holds vast knowledge from scholars, historians, and nobility that has been lost throughout the generations. "These symbols," he began, "are a complex linguistic tapestry. This is not just a simple text, but a coded manuscript that combines ancient Berber dialects with traces of Songhai and Ajami scripts." Jamal leaned forward, his scholarly curiosity piqued. "Can you tell us more about its origins?" Sheikh Umar chuckled softly. "Origins? This scroll speaks of knowledge that predates our current understanding. See these markings here." He pointed to a series of intricate astronomical symbols. These suggest a connection to the exchange of knowledge amongst different empires of the Al-Kabulan continent, such as the Moors, Nubians, Ghanaians, Egyptians, Kushites, Ashanti, Yoruba people, Carthaginians, and Ethiopians. Khadija's eyes widened. A hidden library? But how could such a repository remain unknown? Not unknown, Sheikh Umar corrected gently, but carefully protected. The great scholars of West Africa, Al-Kabulan, understood that true wisdom must be preserved, not exposed to those who might misuse it. He began translating sections of the scroll, his voice becoming a rhythmic incantation of historical revelation. The library is not a place, he explained, but a living system of knowledge. These symbols describe a repository that adapts, that tests those who seek its wisdom. It's protected by mechanisms both physical and philosophical. Jamal interrupted, his analytical mind racing. Mechanisms? What kind of mechanisms? Sheikh Umar's eyes twinkled. Traps that test not just physical skill but the very essence of human understanding. Challenges that reveal the true nature of those who seek knowledge. Khadija listened intently, a hand unconsciously tracing the scroll's edges. How will we know if we're worthy? Worthiness, Sheikh Umar said slowly, is not about individual brilliance. It's about understanding that knowledge is a collective journey. These symbols suggest the library chooses its guardians based on their ability to share, to connect, to transform understanding. The scrolls revealed fragments of an extraordinary narrative, mathematical equations that seemed to shift and change, astronomical observations that challenged current scientific understanding, philosophical insights that bridged cultural divides. But the complete translation will take time, Sheikh Umar cautioned. These are not simple words to be read, but a complex code that requires deep meditation and multiple interpretations. Jamal nodded. How long do you estimate the full translation will take? Weeks, perhaps months, Sheikh Umar replied. Each symbol is a gateway to multiple meanings. The text is designed to reveal itself slowly to those who are patient enough to listen. Khadija felt a surge of excitement mixed with patience. We will wait, she said firmly. Wisdom cannot be rushed. The Tuareg trader returns. The Tuareg trader Malik visits the Timbuktu market on his way to Songhai and decided to seek out Khadija to find out if she could translate the scroll. Malik found Khadija selling fabric to an older couple. After she completed the transaction, Khadija beckoned him to come closer. Jamal noticed Malik walking toward Khadija and decided to join them. Malik formally introduced himself and revealed that he was 37 years old and he had extensive desert knowledge as a Tuareg trader and emissary for a Songhai sultan. His appearance is striking. He has an angular face, piercing hazel brown eyes, and a strong jawline. He is very tall and wears a long flowing blue robe, intricately embroidered with a matching tagelmust and leather sandals. Khadija and Jamal in turn introduced themselves to Malik. After the formal introductions were over, Malik asked Khadija about the scroll. I am waiting on Sheikh Umar, a local historian and scholar, to complete the translation of the scroll, Khadija answered in a confident tone of voice. How long does he surmise that it would take? Malik asked in an inquisitive tone. Jamal interjected that the scroll was given to Sheikh Umar over 4 weeks ago and he provides them with weekly lessons on the translation that has been deciphered up to that point. On our last visit to his library, he explained that the translation should be completed in the upcoming weeks. Jamal explained. Malik closed his eyes and nodded his head with a smile. He was glad to hear that the scroll is finally revealing its secrets after all these many years. Sheikh Umar completed his translation of the ancient Berber scroll in 7 weeks and summoned Khadija and Jamal to his library for the final interpretation. Malik asked permission to join his new friends, and all of them were invited to learn about the mysterious scroll from Sheikh Umar. The scroll seemed to breathe between them, a living testament to centuries of hidden knowledge waiting to be understood. The library summons knowledge seekers, Sheikh Umar proclaimed. Those who are ready to absorb its knowledge will hear its beckoning. But the desert library also guards its secrets formidably, Sheikh Umar warned. Those who seek such knowledge must be prepared to endure hardships. As the morning light shifted, casting new shadows across the ancient manuscript, they sat in a profound silence after studying the translated scroll all night. Khadija broke the silence. Her resolve was unshaken. I have a strong feeling we can find the library by following the directions on this scroll. I know that it will not be easy trekking through the desert, but we owe it to humanity. Our quest is not for wealth, but for the lost knowledge the library scrolls hold. Word of the scroll spread quickly, and soon, adventurers and scholars clamored to join Khadija on her quest to find the hidden library. Among them were Jamal, eager for a tale to rival all others, and Malik, the Tuareg trader with vast knowledge of the Sahara Desert. The preparation was meticulous. Malik was the most experienced among the expedition, brought generations of desert survival. His people had traversed these landscapes for centuries, understanding the subtle language of sand, wind, and survival. His midnight blue tagelmast, wrapped carefully around his head, seemed to hold stories of 1,000 journeys. Their caravan was sizable and well-equipped for a long desert trek. Camels laden with tents, water, dried food, and essential supplies. Malik's expertise in navigation, Jamal's scholarly knowledge, and Khadija's intuitive understanding of the scroll's cryptic messages formed a unique alliance. Khadija bid farewell to her parents. Hamid and Amina prayed to Allah for her safe return. The desert adventure. The journey was perilous. The Sahara's vast expanse tested their endurance, and the sun was merciless. Sandstorms roared through the dunes, forcing the group to take shelter in makeshift tents. But Malik's expertise guided them through shifting dunes and hidden oases, his instincts honed by years of desert travel. One night, as they camped under a sky ablaze with stars, Malik shared his story. "I once sought the library myself," he confessed, "but fear and greed turned my companions against me. I barely escaped with my life. This time, I hope for a better ending." The Desert Library Expedition. My first attempt at finding the library happened about 12 years ago. I was a young desert guide for hire, and my reputation for guiding caravans and travelers safely through the Sahara was phenomenal. On this particular caravan expedition, I met a cartographer by the name of Hassan, who confided in me that he is in possession of a scroll and map to the fabled library of vast knowledge. He is gathering a caravan of his own to find the hidden library and wants to hire Malik as their guide. He is stunned by this invitation because his ancestors passed down the tale of a hidden library in the Sahara. Malik never thought he would have a chance to prove if the library existed until now. Without hesitation, he accepted the assignment right away, no questions asked. In the subsequent weeks, the team of explorers were chosen. The expedition began in Timbuktu, where rumors of the hidden library had circulated among scholars for generations. Ancient texts spoke of a repository of knowledge so profound that entire civilizations had tried and failed to locate it. Mathematical principles that predated known scientific understanding. Astronomical calculations that challenged current comprehension. Medical knowledge that seemed almost magical in its complexity. These are some of the discoveries said to behold within this elusive library of ancient secrets. There were 5 men on the expedition. Ibrahim, a wealthy merchant from Timbuktu with connections to multiple royal courts. Rashid, a former soldier with a reputation for ruthless efficiency. Hassan, a cartographer with an uncanny ability to read terrain. Ahmed, a linguist who read and spoke multiple desert dialects, and Malik, the Tuareg guide with intimate knowledge of the Sahara's most treacherous routes. Ibrahim's true motivations became clear gradually. While the others spoke of knowledge and discovery, he calculated potential monetary value. "Imagine," he would say during their evening camps, "what Mali collectors would pay for such manuscripts. A single scroll could be worth more than a dozen caravans of gold." Their journey took them through the most treacherous parts of the Sahara, regions where even the most experienced traders feared to travel, landscapes that shifted like living entities where mirages could kill as effectively as any blade. 50 days into their expedition, they discovered the first real clue, a stone marker with astronomical alignments that matched fragments of an ancient map Hassan had studied for years. The marker was situated in a narrow canyon, surrounded by rock formations that seemed almost deliberately positioned. "We're close," Hassan announced, his fingers tracing the stone's intricate markings. But Ibrahim's eyes gleamed with something other than scholarly excitement. His motivation for finding the library was a pure greed. That night, Malik and Hassan overheard a whispered conversation between Ibrahim and Rashid, who thought the other 3 were asleep. They were planning to murder the others once the library was found. "Why share?" Ibrahim said, "when the two of us can take everything." The next morning, Hassan gave the scroll to Malik for safekeeping, just in case Ibrahim or Rashid tried to take it from him by force. Malik accepted the scroll and tied it around his waist. Malik's Tuareg training had taught him patience. He began to secretly prepare for a hasty departure from the duplicitous duo, creating alternative routes, hiding additional water supplies, ensuring he could survive independently if needed. The betrayal came suddenly, as such things often do in the desert. During an evening sandstorm that raged outside their camp, Rashid attempted to poison the water pouch. Malik, always cautious, had anticipated such a move and hid other water pouches. What followed was a brutal confrontation with Rashid. Malik's desert survival skills, honed over decades, proved superior. He managed to wound Rashid on his left side with his sword, creating enough confusion to escape into the sandstorm. But Malik's escape almost cost his life. He lost most of his supplies, detailed maps of the Sahara, and worst of all, his supply of water was running low. Ibrahim and the others believed Malik dead, swallowed by the merciless desert sandstorm. But survival was something Malik understood intimately. For 2 weeks, he traversed the most unforgiving terrain, rationing what little water and supplies he had managed to salvage. His body protected the map, and his determination to find the hidden library was delayed, not surrendered. When he finally reached the Bedouins' camp, he was more ghost than man. But his mind remained focused on a single goal, returning to find the library. When he regained his strength, Malik studied the map and for years tried in vain to find a scholarly interpreter. They saw the library as a treasure to be stolen, Malik recounted to Khadija and Jamal. But true knowledge cannot be stolen, it can only be earned. The fragments he had managed to save became his obsession. Complex astronomical calculations, partial maps with celestial alignments, hints of a protection system so sophisticated it seemed almost alive. Years passed. Ibrahim died, reportedly killed during a merchant dispute about a debt that he owed. Rashid disappeared in subsequent desert expedition that never returned to Timbuktu. Ahmed's whereabouts were unknown, and Hassan went mad, mumbling about libraries that shifted like sand. Never giving up hope, Malik held onto the scroll and waited for its secrets to reveal themselves. When markings suddenly appeared on the scroll instructing Malik to the Timbuktu auction platform, it was there where he found a worthy recipient of the scroll in Khadija. "The scroll and library choose its seekers," Malik said with encouragement. "This time, we will be ready." Khadija, Jamal, and their fellow adventurers listened to Malik's story intently without uttering a word. Jamal was the first to break the silence. "I am intrigued by the connection that you have with the library. I can imagine your frustration that you were so close but so far away that you don't know if it actually exists, except for Hassan's account of a library that moves." Khadija added, "This time, we are certain the library will be found, and all of us will share the knowledge instead of hoarding it for ourselves." The Kufra Brotherhood. The Sahara was unforgiving. Days of scorching heat gave way to freezing nights. Sandstorms that could strip flesh from bone tested their resolve. But beneath the harsh exterior, the desert was also a keeper of stories, of ancient memories that whispered to those who knew how to listen. One night during the 7th week of their journey, as they camped beneath a canopy of stars so brilliant they seemed close enough to touch, Malik shared a story passed down through the generations of his family. "Long ago," he began, his voice low and rhythmic, "there were guardians of knowledge, scholars, Christians, Jewish, and Islamic scribes who understood that true wisdom was not about accumulation, but transformation. This library you seek is more than a collection of manuscripts. It is a living entity, a breath of collective memory, and for hundreds of years the library was a source of vast knowledge for anyone to acquire. This all changed about 2,500 years ago when a group of alchemists who used the knowledge acquired from sacred scrolls to increase rainfall in the Sahara region. Their failed attempt created a devastating monsoon instead that decimated the northern part of the continent that was once lush, green lands, rivers, and forests. This catastrophic event caused several 100,000 deaths of inhabitants and animals. No one could control the monsoon, even after weeks of unsuccessful attempts. Eventually, the monsoon dissipated, and the region dried up, and we are still burdened with the lasting effects to this present day. The alchemists' misuse of the knowledge resulted in a meeting of guardians of the library who formed the Kufra Brotherhood to protect humanity from further harm brought on by the misuse of knowledge obtained from the library. The scrolls of knowledge safeguarded in the library were entrusted to this secretive network of scholars sworn to protect and preserve the knowledge contained in the scrolls. This group, comprised of members from various Alkebulan cultures, Tuareg, Mandinka, Fulani, Berber, Malian, Yoruba, and Songhai, who took generational vows of silence. I am a descendant from one of the original members, as I previously mentioned. Their existence in this secret society to protect the ancient knowledge was passed down through the generations. Each member was taught only fragments of the library's location, ensuring that no single person could reveal its complete coordinates. Complex initiation ceremonies meant that knowledge of the library was passed down through carefully constructed oral traditions. These weren't simple stories, but intricate mnemonic systems that required years of training to fully comprehend. The location was encoded in poetry, astronomical observations, and mathematical puzzles that would seem like nonsensical narratives to an outsider. Khadija listened, understanding that their quest was about more than discovering a hidden place. It was about reconnecting with a profound understanding of human knowledge that had been fragmented and forgotten. The sun blazed like a molten hammer, crushing any hope of mercy. Khadija's water skin hung nearly empty, her lips cracked and bleeding from the relentless desert heat. Around her, the expedition's survivors huddled beneath a makeshift tarp, their spirits wavering like heat mirages. 3 days earlier, they had been ambushed by desert bandits, fierce Tuareg raiders who seemed to emerge from the sand itself. The first attack came without warning. Arrows whistled through the air, striking 2 of their guides. Malik yelled an order in Berber for the Tuareg raiders to cease, and then he stepped forward and presented his medallion to prove he was a royal emissary. The fighting came to a bloody halt, and the raiders bowed to Malik and provided the expedition safe travel and protection from that point onward. Malik studied the scroll again. The parchment was fragile, nearly translucent, marked with symbols that seemed to shift and change when viewed from different angles. "These markings," he muttered, "they're not just a map, they're a warning." A massive scorpion, larger than Khadijah's hand, scuttled past their shelter. Its exoskeleton gleamed like polished obsidian, its stinger dripping with a venom that could kill a man within minutes. The desert itself seemed alive, hostile, protecting its secrets with every grain of sand. That night, as they huddled around a campfire, Malik shared more of the scroll's cryptic message. "The library is protected," he explained, "not just by sand and distance, but by mechanisms designed to destroy those unworthy of its knowledge." Jamal leaned forward, his scholarly curiosity burning brighter than their campfire. "What kind of mechanisms?" Malik's eyes reflected both warning and excitement. "Traps, ancient technologies that would make modern-day builders weep with admiration, pressure plates that release poison darts, corridors that flood or collapse, mechanisms that can read the intentions of those who enter." The journey had already tested every limit of human endurance. They had crossed landscapes that seemed impossible, vast salt plains that reflected the sun like mirrors, creating mirages that drove weaker men mad. They had navigated through rugged plateaus, highlands, and mountain ranges where rocks could avalanche with the slightest disturbance, and traversed sand dunes that shifted like living creatures. On the 122nd day, they discovered the first real sign, a stone marker, half buried in sand, with inscriptions matching those on the scroll. Khadijah's hands trembled as she brushed away centuries of accumulated dust. "We're close," she whispered. But the desert had one more trial. A massive sandstorm descended, without warning. It was as if the very landscape had decided to reject their presence. Winds howled with a fury that seemed almost sentient, carrying razor-sharp sand particles that could strip flesh from bone. They huddled together, tied to each other with ropes, creating a human chain of survival. For 12 hours, the storm raged. When it finally subsided, their supplies were decimated. 2 more of their companions had succumbed, one to exhaustion, another to a mysterious fever that seemed to emerge from the sand itself. The hidden desert's library. The desert winds howled against the ancient stone walls of the hidden library, whispering secrets of centuries past. After more than 3 months of travel, the map led them to a canyon hidden within the dunes. The scroll symbols matched the carvings on the canyon walls, leading them to a concealed entrance. The adventurers, covered in layers of dust and sweat, stood in awe of the massive stone structure, trying to process the fact that they found the elusive, fabled, hidden library of the Sahara Desert. The adventurers stood in front of a grand hidden library carved into the sandstone cliffs, ancient yet well preserved. The entrance is framed by tall, intricately carved columns, supporting a series of arches, leading into a shadowed interior filled with unimaginable knowledge of the ancients. The surrounding desert landscape features towering rock formations with wind-eroded surfaces and small openings in the cliffs hinting at hidden chambers. The atmosphere is warm, with golden sunlight casting long shadows on the sand-covered stone steps. The library exudes an ancient aura, untouched for centuries, evoking a sense of lost knowledge and forgotten civilizations. The library was situated within a complex geological formation, a partially hidden canyon system that appeared unremarkable from a distance. Massive sandstone formations and intricate rock formations create natural camouflage. Wind and sand continuously shifted the landscape, erasing potential tracks or consistent visual markers. What might be visible one season could be completely obscured the next. The preservation of the library's location was a masterpiece of collective protection, a multi-layered defense that combined natural camouflage and cultural secrecy passed down through generations. When Khadija and her companions finally discovered the library, it was not just through physical navigation, but through a profound alignment of knowledge, spiritual readiness, and ancestral understanding that is guided by the scroll. The library had remained hidden, not through a single method, but through a complex living system of protection, a testament to the sophisticated intellectual and spiritual traditions of Alkebulan scholarly networks. In the words of Malik, as they stood within the newly discovered sanctuary, some treasures are hidden not to be kept secret, but to be discovered by those truly prepared to understand them. The desert had been its own guardian, protecting a wisdom that was waiting for the right moment, the right seekers, to be revealed. The hidden library's archway was nothing like the expected. The original roof and columns were still in place and did not show deterioration from the desert sands. When the explorers walked cautiously toward the entrance through the archway, Malik pointed out the first warning. Every floor tile is a potential trigger, he whispered. Watch. He tossed a small leather bag filled with sand onto the floor. Instantly, razor-sharp blades erupted from the walls, slicing the bag into ribbons before it could touch the ground. The blades were crafted from an iron alloy, impossibly thin, yet strong enough to cut through massive stone blocks. The library's main entrance incorporated sophisticated hydraulic and astronomical mechanisms far ahead of its time. A series of underground water channels created a complex system that would subtly alter the canyon's appearance. The scroll noted that during certain astronomical alignments, specific rock formations would temporarily reveal hidden passages, visible only to those who understood the precise mathematical calculations. The surrounding desert environment itself was a formidable guardian. Unpredictable sandstorms, extreme temperature variations, and treacherous terrain naturally discouraged casual exploration. The nearest water sources were strategically hidden, making extended expeditions nearly impossible without specialized knowledge. As they carefully navigated the second entrance, the library revealed itself not as a simple repository of books, but as a complex labyrinth of deadly precision. The first chamber was a masterpiece of architectural deception, smooth stone floors inlaid with intricate geometric patterns that seemed to shift and change when viewed from different angles. The ceiling mechanism was equally treacherous. Seemingly innocuous carved stone panels could drop massive stone blocks in precise geometric patterns, creating instant crushing traps that would seal intruders into narrow corridors. Some panels were connected to pressure-sensitive floors, ensuring that any weight displacement could trigger a fatal response. Water was weaponized in the second chamber. Narrow channels carved into the walls could flood entire sections in seconds, with water pressure so forceful it could crush human bones. But this was no ordinary water. Malik recognized traces of a paralytic agent derived from rare desert plants, ensuring that even if someone survived the initial flood, they would be unable to escape because their muscles could not move. The most ingenious trap was a series of optical illusions. Mirrors and precisely angled reflective surfaces created false corridors and phantom pathways. What appeared to be a straight passage could suddenly become a dead end with walls closing in, or a floor that would give way to a bottomless pit. Jamal approached methodically, analyzing the geometric principles behind the illusions. His scientific mind saw each mirror and reflection as a mathematical problem to be solved. He would pause, calculate angles, and carefully map out the true paths by understanding the physics of light and reflection and feeling the subtle air currents and listening to the smallest acoustic changes that might reveal the true path. These are not just traps, Jamal observed, his scholarly mind racing, but a test of intelligence. Each mechanism requires more than physical skill, it demands understanding. Khadija and Malik followed his lead. One particularly complex room featured a series of hanging chains and platforms. Each chain was connected to multiple potential trigger mechanisms. A wrong step could release poisoned spears, trigger collapsing floors, or activate spinning blade mechanisms that would slice through anything in their path. Malik relied on his years of navigating treacherous desert terrain made him nimble and precise. He understood weight distribution and could predict potential trigger mechanisms. Calculating, Malik explained that these traps were designed by scholars who understood human behavior as much as they understood mechanics. Each mechanism is a lesson, he said, a challenge to prove one's worthiness to access the knowledge within. The library protects itself, Khadija realized. It's not just a collection of knowledge, it's a living system of defense and preservation. For centuries, the library's defense mechanisms were designed to test the true worth of those who sought to unveil its mysteries. The inscription, Khadija felt a profound sense of awe. Here was the legacy of countless generations preserved against the ravages of time. But among the treasures lay a warning inscribed in stone translated into several different languages. Knowledge can bring wisdom, but also corruption. Strengthen your heart with wisdom, lest the power you wield turns against you. When Khadija traced her fingers along the etched symbols, the warning seemed to come alive, revealing layers of meaning that transcended simple words. The letters were not just carved, but seemed to shimmer with an inner light, as if the very essence of wisdom had been captured within the stone's surface. Malik, standing beside her, interpreted the warning with the depth of his desert-born wisdom. In our tradition, he explained, knowledge is not a commodity to be hoarded, but a living spirit to be respected. These words speak of a profound truth that if knowledge becomes a tool of control, it loses its sacred nature. For Malik, it spoke of desert survival, knowledge as a delicate balance between survival and respect for the natural world. For Jamal, it was an academic's most profound challenge, the constant battle against intellectual ego. For Khadija, it was a personal journey of understanding the responsibility that came with discovery. The inner chamber. As dawn approached and the first light began to filter through the hidden chambers, the library no longer disguised its treasured scrolls behind optical illusions and deadly defense mechanisms. The map led them to a vast circular inner chamber with floor-to-ceiling shelves stuffed full of scrolls that contained invaluable knowledge. Inside, the air was cool and still. Torches illuminated shelves upon shelves of manuscripts, their pages whispering secrets of ages past. Intricate murals adorned the walls, depicting scholars and seekers from ages long gone. Khadija, Malik, and Jamal carefully combed through some of the thousands of manuscripts in various languages, Arabic, Berber, Ajami, and other ancient Alkebulan texts that chronicled mathematics, astronomy, medicine, philosophy, and spiritual practices that challenged everything they thought they knew about the history. The chamber seemed to whisper additional context of previous seekers who had found the library, some who had been transformed by its wisdom, others who had been destroyed by their own ambition, scholars who had gone mad trying to control the knowledge, clerics who had found profound peace, rulers who had sought to use the manuscripts as weapons, only to be consumed by their own desires. The most dangerous knowledge, Malik murmured, is that which separates us from our humanity. The moment we believe we are above others because of what we know, we have already fallen. The manuscripts around them, thousands of years of human understanding, seemed to breathe in agreement. Knowledge, they whispered, was a living thing, to be respected, to be shared, to be protected not with walls and locks, but with an open heart and a humble spirit. Khadija knew at that moment their discovery was about far more than a hidden library. It was about rediscovering a way of understanding that had been lost, a way that saw knowledge not as a weapon, but as a process that could dissolve barriers and promote understanding. Knowledge was a promise of what could be, if wisdom was balanced with responsibility. That wisdom was not about possession, but about transformation and enlightenment. The desert had shared its secrets, and through Khadija, those secrets would continue to breathe, to inspire, to transform. The final crucible of knowledge. As Khadija, Jamal, and Malik approached the innermost sanctum, the atmosphere changed. The air became charged with an almost electric anticipation, thick with the weight of centuries of accumulated wisdom. The final chamber was unlike anything they had imagined. Unlike the previous rooms of mechanical traps and physical challenges, this space was a test of the mind and soul. A massive circular chamber opened before them, its walls covered in mirrors that seemed to reflect infinite versions of themselves. At the center stood a raised platform with 3 pedestals, each holding a different object. A weathered scroll, a small water vessel, and an intricately carved stone with astronomical markings. A disembodied voice, neither male nor female, neither old nor young, filled the chamber. It spoke in multiple languages simultaneously, weaving between Arabic, Berber, and an ancient dialect none of them fully understood. To access the wisdom, you must prove the true nature of knowledge, the voice proclaimed, not its acquisition, but its purpose. The challenge revealed itself as a philosophical and ethical trial. Each participant had to approach the pedestals and make a choice that would reveal their deepest motivations. The first test challenged their individual desires. 1. The scroll represented pure knowledge, ancient text that could revolutionize understanding of history, science, and philosophy. 2. The water vessel symbolized survival and practical wisdom, the ability to sustain life in the harshest conditions. 3. The stone represented cosmic understanding, astronomical knowledge that could unlock the secrets of navigation, time, and the universe's fundamental principles. But here was the catch. They could only choose one, and their choice would be judged not by their words, but by the true intent of their hearts. Malik approached first. His hand hovered over the water vessel, the practical survival tool that had guided his people through countless desert crossings. But something stopped him. His fingers trembled, then moved to the scroll. Jamal was drawn to the astronomical stone, his scholarly mind racing with the potential scientific discoveries. But as he reached out, he hesitated. Khadija stood perfectly still. She understood the test was deeper than a simple selection. The mirrors began to shift, showing not their current selves, but multiple versions of their lives. Paths not taken, choices unmade, potential futures based on their deepest motivations. Malik saw visions of his Tuareg tribe, surviving through generations, protected by the practical wisdom of the water vessel. Jamal witnessed potential scientific breakthroughs that could transform human understanding. Khadija saw something different. When she finally stepped forward, she did something unexpected. Instead of choosing any single object, she reached out and touched all 3, not to take, but to connect them. The voice spoke again. Wisdom is not possessed, it is shared. In that moment, the mirrors dissolved, the objects merged, transforming into a luminous sphere of pure knowledge that hovered between them. It wasn't information to be hoarded, but a living, breathing essence of understanding. The true test was not about individual gain, but collective enlightenment. The library has waited, the voice continued, for those who understand that knowledge is a river, not a vessel. It flows, it connects, it transforms. Symbols from the original scroll began to materialize on the chamber walls. Complex mathematical equations, astronomical charts, historical records, and philosophical treatises. But they were no longer static. They moved, intertwined, demonstrated living connections between seemingly disparate fields of human understanding. Malik realized this was more than a library. It was a living map of human potential. Jamal saw the interconnectedness of scientific principles across centuries. Khadija understood that true wisdom transcends individual perspective. The sphere of knowledge began to divide, not to separate, but to distribute, offering each of them a piece of a greater understanding that they could carry back to their respective communities. They had not conquered the library, they had been chosen to become part of its ongoing story of knowledge. The adventurers gazed upon the towering shelves of scrolls, their delicate parchment illuminated by the flickering glow of their oil lamps. For weeks, they had battled the treacherous sands, evaded raiders and deciphered cryptic maps to reach this sanctuary of knowledge, and now they had finally arrived. As Jamal, the eager scholar, unrolled the first scroll, his breath caught in his throat. "This is it," he gasped, his hands trembling with excitement. "These are the lost records of the ancients, medicine, engineering, history. It's all here." Khadija rushed to his side, peering over his shoulder at the delicate inscriptions. Her eyes widened as she recognized some of the symbols. "This is a formula for an herbal remedy," she said, "one that treats infections without needing to cut away the flesh." She traced the lines carefully. This could save countless lives. Her mind raced. For years, she had seen fevers consume entire villages, simple wounds turned to festering horrors. But here, in the faded ink of an ancient scholar, lay a cure. Khadija's heart pounded as she realized the significance. "We must share this knowledge," she declared. "This cannot be buried again." Nearby, Malik sifted through another stack of scrolls. His fingers ran over sketches of grand structures, fortified granaries, aqueducts, and bridges unlike any he had ever seen. "These techniques are more advanced than what we use today. Look at this, an irrigation system that captures and stores rainwater beneath the desert. If we bring this knowledge back, we could transform the arid lands into fertile fields." Now, before him, lay blueprints that could change the course of history. "Entire cities could thrive where only dust exists now," he murmured. As he moved from scroll to scroll, in the corner, Jamal held a scroll that made his blood run cold. It was a chronicle of the empires before theirs, stories of dynasties lost to time. The names, the dates, they filled in the missing pieces of history that had long been fragmented by war and the passing of generations. This tells of kings and scholars erased from our records," he said with confidence. "It confirms the legend of the great astronomer priest of the Mali Empire. It speaks of libraries greater than even Timbuktu. It names the lost cities, swallowed by time." A silence fell over the adventurers as they processed the weight of their discovery. The library was not merely a collection of scrolls, it was a beacon, a map to a future shaped by wisdom. Medicine to heal the sick, engineering to raise civilizations, history to unite a people. Suddenly, in an instant, the chamber began to dissolve around them. The knowledge seekers found themselves swept up in a whirlwind that transformed them into small particles as they flew across the Sahara and rematerialized back into solid human beings. After regaining their original forms, the three adventurers, along with their companions, camels, and several hundred packed crates of scrolls from the library, landed on the outskirts of Timbuktu. When they composed themselves, Khadija announced, "The real journey is just beginning." As the travelers looked around, a large group of people from Timbuktu walked toward them with a skepticism and wonder after witnessing them appear out of thin air. When the Malians got closer, some of them shouted that Khadija, Jamal, and Malik returned from their quest alive. Khadija and her companions were hailed as heroes. The manuscripts they brought back enriched the city's libraries, drawing scholars from far and wide. Jamal wove their adventure into a tale that would be told for generations, and Malik found solace in fulfilling a quest that had haunted him for years. But Khadija never forgot the warning, the eternal dialogue of knowledge. The library was more than a collection of texts. It was a living organism of human understanding, a dynamic repository that had been carefully cultivated over centuries by generations of scholars who understood that knowledge is not a static possession, but a living, evolving dialogue. Khadija, Jamal, Malik, and scholars who traveled far distances scoured through ancient scrolls, written in Wolof, Hausa, Fula, Mandinka, Swahili, Ajami, Berber, Tigrinya, and Amharic languages. Each civilization on the Alkebulan continent contributed to the library had left not just information, but their philosophical essence. The Malian scholars who first established the hidden sanctuary believed that true wisdom was a collective inheritance, not an individual achievement. Their foundational principle was simple yet profound. Knowledge grows through dialogue, challenge, and shared understanding. The library's mechanism was designed to select guardians, not owners. Those who passed the final challenge weren't granted ownership, but responsibility. They became part of an ancient lineage of knowledge carriers, individuals who would take their fragment of understanding and use it to illuminate their own communities. Malik understood this through his Tuareg traditions. His people had always been nomadic knowledge carriers, preserving wisdom through oral traditions and careful transmission. The library was an extension of this ancient practice, a global, interconnected system of intellectual preservation. For Jamal, a scholarly man who had spent his life studying ancient texts, the revelation was transformative. The library showed him that scientific understanding was not a linear progression, but a complex web of interconnected insights. Mathematical principles discovered in one civilization were echoed and expanded in another, separated by continents and centuries. Khadija saw something even more profound. The library represented human potential, our collective ability to transcend individual limitations, to learn, to grow, to connect. The significance of the library's ongoing story was multi-layered through preservation of marginalized knowledge, where many of the texts represented wisdom from Alkebulan and Middle Eastern scholars, mathematical principles, astronomical observations, and philosophical concepts over 3,000 years ago that are meticulously preserved. Unlike traditional libraries that preserve knowledge in static form, this library was adaptive. Its knowledge could reshape itself, finding new relevance in different historical and cultural contexts. A mathematical equation could evolve, showing different applications across civilizations. The library's complex selection process ensured that knowledge would be transmitted by individuals who understood its deeper purpose, not for personal gain, but for collective human advancement. The sphere of knowledge they received was not a fixed text, but a living blueprint that contained mathematical algorithms that could solve complex environmental challenges, astronomical observations that connect human understanding to cosmic patterns, and medical knowledge that integrated holistic and scientific approaches. When they emerged from the desert after their triumphant quest, Khadija, Jamal, and Malik were changed. They weren't just explorers who had discovered a hidden library. They were now carriers of a profound understanding, custodians of a wisdom that transcended individual ego or cultural boundaries. The library scrolls taught them and their fellow scholars the process required to restore the knowledge of their ancestors to humanity. Their mission was clear: to share, not hoard, to inspire, not control, to recognize that each piece of knowledge is a thread in a larger, more complex tapestry of human understanding. The desert had tested them. The library had transformed them. Legacy of the hidden library. After Khadija, Jamal, and Malik successfully retrieved the scrolls from the hidden library, the impact of their discovery rippled across the Alkebulan continent like a transformative wave, touching every aspect of human civilization. In the medical scrolls, scholars discovered revolutionary healing techniques that would reshape understanding of human physiology. A particularly intricate manuscript detailed sophisticated surgical procedures developed by physicians from the ancient Songhai Empire. These techniques included precise methods for treating complex bone fractures, advanced understanding of herbal remedies, and surgical interventions that were centuries ahead of their time. Sheikh Umar, Jamal, Malik, and several other scholars spent years translating these scrolls. One particular breakthrough involved a comprehensive treatment for a persistent fever that had plagued desert communities for generations. The manuscript described a combination of specific plant extracts, precise preparation methods, and a holistic approach to healing. This medical approach is a complete understanding of human wellness that connects body, mind, and environment. The astronomical scrolls proved equally transformative. Mathematical calculations discovered in the library revealed computational methods that predate current scientific understanding by hundreds of years. Young scholars like Malik's son Salim used these calculations to develop new navigation techniques that would revolutionize trade routes across the Sahara and beyond. One scroll, written in an intricate hybrid of Berber and Mandinka scripts, contained precise astronomical observations that allowed for unprecedented agricultural planning. Desert communities could now predict rainfall patterns with remarkable accuracy, transforming agricultural practices across the region. Historical records told stories that had been lost to time. Detailed accounts of trade networks, diplomatic relationships, and cultural exchanges revealed a far more complex and interconnected Alkebulan continent than previously understood. Scrolls documented interactions between kingdoms that historians had believed were isolated, showing sophisticated diplomatic and cultural exchanges. A particularly remarkable manuscript detailed the scientific and cultural achievements of a previously lost community in the heart of the Sahara. This group had developed advanced metalworking techniques, complex mathematical systems, and a philosophical approach to knowledge that emphasized collective understanding over individual achievement. The library's educational scrolls became a foundation for a new approach to learning. They emphasized a holistic educational model that connected scientific understanding with philosophical and spiritual growth. Schools across West Alkebulan began incorporating these principles, creating a more integrated approach to education. Khadija, now a respected scholar, wife of Jamal and mother of 5 children, would often reflect on the library's true value. It was never about the gold or the treasure, she would tell young students. It was about preserving human knowledge, about ensuring that wisdom survives beyond any single generation. 20 years after their discovery, the library's impact was profound. New medical treatments have saved thousands of lives. Agricultural innovations have transformed desert communities. Educational approaches became more holistic and interconnected. Malik, in his final years, would sit with young scholars, sharing the story of their expedition. "The library chose us," he would say, his eyes still bright with the memory of their adventure. "But more importantly, we chose to honor its true purpose, to preserve and share knowledge." The hidden library was no longer hidden. Its wisdom had become a living, breathing part of Alkebulan intellectual and cultural life. And somewhere, in the vast silence of the Sahara, the spirits of the ancient scholars who had protected this knowledge for generations smiled. The adventure was not about finding a library, it was about continuing a legacy of human understanding that transcended time, culture, and individual achievement. Now, they are part of its ongoing story, continuing a dialogue that had been running for centuries and would continue long after they were gone. In the words of an ancient inscription, "True wisdom is not what you know, but how you choose to share what you have learned." Their lives had become the living embodiment of the library's greatest secret. True wisdom is a journey, not a destination.
Thank you for watching African and African American folktales. Please like this video, ring the notification bell, and consider becoming a subscriber. Your comments provide feedback that help us create entertaining content for your enjoyment.